It's not okay.
So good afternoon. We still have a bunch of people coming in, so we'll give everybody a couple minutes and then we'll get started. All right, we'll just give another 2 minutes and then we'll get going here this afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for your patience here.
Are you in the meeting?
All right. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Harris Kaplan with the Maryland State Retirement Agency. I'll be doing our training today. So I thank everybody for being here and being on time. Sometimes it just takes a couple minutes for us to get everybody admitted into the meeting, which we're still doing. So Mary Beth, if you can kind of make sure everybody gets admitted, that would be a big help. So for our training today, if you have questions, feel free to ask them. You can post them in our chat. You can raise your hand. We'll call on you. We have scheduled parts of the training to allow you to ask questions. So please make sure that you do ask those questions. We are recording this so we can make that recording available to you. It will be a couple days before we get the recording, but then later today or first thing tomorrow, we can also get these slides sent out to you. All right, so we will go ahead and get started. So just SRA team, Ed, Mary Beth, if you guys can help me in making sure people get admitted, and then when we get the breaks, if there's any questions, I'll keep an eye on it, but if I miss something, just kind of keep me in check. Right? So get this out of my way. All right. The other thing is that I'm going to mute everybody. So if you need to unmute yourself to ask a question, just feel free to do that. All right, we're going to break this down into two parts. So part one, this is going to be for everybody. So these are the things that we're going to go over: is how to manage users, how to activate your account and log in, how to update your profile, how to submit member documents, how to view employer documents, how to send secure message, how to get help. Those are like the features that mostly everybody will have, regardless of what user role you will have. When there are parts that are specific to a user role, we will let you know that. And then what we'll do is after we finish part one, we'll take about a 10-minute break, let everybody refresh themselves, and then we'll come back and we will do the second part. And that's going to be for those who specifically deal with uploading payroll and also users that will be making payments. So there's kind of two parts of that: is uploading the payroll and then making the payments for that. So if you're going to be involved in that, please stay for the second part. If you're not going to be involved in that, you are more than welcome to stay for that second part, but I'm not going to make it a requirement for you. So for those that are currently using our older software, which is Epdr, Employer Portal Data Reporting, I think is what we called it. These are the features that haven't changed. The payroll schedules. You submit your payroll schedules through Epdr. You're doing that probably now or in the next month or so. The way that you've done it through Epdr will be the same that you're doing it in the employer portal. You're not going to see a lot of change there. For some of the other file uploads, your annual wage file, if you're sending us a sick leave recertification file that we ask for, your deduction file, so if you're submitting files for us to take out health deductions from the monthly retirement checks, how you're doing that doesn't change. And then if we still have a category for other files, but we'll kind of direct you where we need you to send mostly everything you don't need to send in other files now, and that's going to kind of weed itself out. So the first thing about the new site is managing users. For Epdr, the way that users get added is by us at the state retirement agency. Typically, employers will send us an email or a form, say, hey, we need these people as users of Epdr. That's going to change with the new site. It is now self-service. So you as the employer are going to be responsible for updating your users, adding your users, deleting users. So if somebody is new and they're going to be doing payroll, you can be the ones that add them on. You don't have to wait for the state retirement agency to do that. So it's self-service. It's in your control as the employer. So what we've already asked from each employer is to designate 2 administrators for the site. This is one of the main tasks that the administrators will be doing is the responsibility of the users, of adding, deleting, and updating the users. So everybody on this call has already submitted to us your EP users, so that should not be the EP admin users, so that should not be a problem for when we go live a week from now. So when you add a user, every user needs to have a user role, and these user roles determine what features they can have access to. A user can have more than one user role. So let's look at these user roles. Payroll. So the payroll, this role is responsible for managing all aspects of uploading and submitting a payroll file, uploading and submitting an adjustment file. They will also have access to view invoices and pay schedules. So let's have a distinction here. They have the ability to manage, which means they're actually doing that work. And then they have access to view. View means that they can only see it. They cannot actually pay those invoices. So to pay an invoice, you need to have the role of payment. So a payment user's primary role is the ability to view and pay invoices for payroll and adjustments. Okay. There's a reason that these are separated. What we got a lot of feedback from a couple years ago, we did workshops with employers. Maybe some of you were at some of those workshops, and the feedback that we got is, "Hey, I'm a larger employer, and typically we're seeing this with boards of education. I'm not authorized to make a payment. That has to be done by somebody else. So we need to have that separation. This is built in to have that separation, okay? Now, as I said, you can have more than one user role. So if you are a smaller agency and maybe you are the person that does both submitting the payroll and initiating the payment, you need to make sure that you're assigned to both the payroll and the payment role. All right? Employer administrator, their main role is to manage the employer users. They also have the role of setting up pay schedules and banking info. So the payment user is not setting up the banking info, the administrator is. Again, this is kind of help to provide some separation of duties for employers that told us that they need it. Okay. Another important thing I want to point out is if you are an administrator, that does not mean that you have access, that you are automatically granted all of these roles. Okay, the administrator is specific to these functionalities. So if you also are going to be doing payroll, then you need to make sure that you're the administrator and payroll. If you're going to be the administrator making payments, you need to make sure you have the user role of payments. Okay, each one of these user roles is specific to those functionalities. Make sure that you are setting up your users or setting yourself up if you're administrator to have those correct roles. Pay schedule, it's just specifically to do the pay schedule. Wage file is just specifically for wage file. Same thing with deduction, sick leave, other. Retirement coordinator, so this role is mostly read access, but they have the role of being able to upload member documents. We know that retirement coordinators are the ones that typically send us member documents. So that is a new feature that we will show you today. And the user role of retirement coordinator would be the one to be uploading member documents. Okay. And again, most of these also have basic functionality that we'll be showing here in a minute. So how to activate your account. So there's basically 2 ways that this is going to happen. If you have a current active account in Epdr, we will send you an email to reset your password in the employer portal. Okay, you're going to set up a new password. It is a new site. So you will get an email at some point on Monday when we go live with this. It's probably going to be morning, early afternoon. If you don't have a current EPDR account, then, and you are now going to be the administrator, we will set up your account. You will get an email to say activate your account. You'll click that and you'll get a link to set up your password. All right. If you're not an EPDR user and you're not an admin and you're on this call, then the way that you're going to get your account set up is your admin will use you as a new user if you're supposed to have that access. All right. So the main thing is that come Monday, if you are currently an EPDR or we've been given information from your employer that you're going to be the admin, you will get an email to activate your account. What will happen is we'll send out a first email saying we're going live, here's what to expect, and then sometime after that you'll get the email. So there's some manual work that we have to do to set this stuff up. We do that on Monday morning. So it will take a couple of hours for us to get all of that completed to get that out to you. So new login process. So before we get to the demo, I'll do the demo and then we'll have time for some questions, okay? So the new login process, we've added a multi-factor authentication process. This is to improve our security. So the first factor is your username and password. Username is going to be your email address. Password, you're going to set that up. The second factor is a one-time passcode that is sent to your email address. Okay. So, and the first time you get this, it may look like it's going to your junk folder. So you may have to say, hey, don't go to my junk folder. I haven't really seen too much of that. I haven't really seen any problems with people getting one-time passcode, but we wanted to let you know that is a possibility. And I'm going to demo this for you, but just to kind of give you an idea of why we're doing this. This will be upon every time that you log in. This is common now, I think, for any secured site. I will tell you that if you're on a secured site and they're not doing multi-factor, it's not as secure as they're going to tell you it is. What does this actually do? Well, if somebody got a hold of your username and password, they would still need access to your actual email account in order to get into the site. So it's separating these two things so that you have to have both factors in order to get in. That's basically the new standard. And this does follow with NIST's guidelines. So NIST is the National Institute of Standards of Technology. They are the one that group basically said the multi-factor is what is required nowadays. Also, the state has guidelines on it from Department of IT, which also requires a one-time passcode. So we want to keep up with that and make sure that we have a secured site. We are passing a lot of personal account information back and forth. So let me give you a demo here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get logged in. So before I even start the demo, I just want to get a couple things out. Number one, I'm in a test site. Okay, so everything that I do is just test data and doesn't go into anywhere except our test database. It is typically slower than our production. So if you see something like, oh, I wish I was a little bit faster, it will be faster when you get into production. There are also some functionality that I'm not going to demonstrate today because they are new and we haven't rolled them out into production. We're still testing them. But they are things, you'll see, hey, we're not stopping here. We're going to continue to keep adding on to this site. So this is version 1 that we're rolling out now. We have plans for future versions in the future here. The other thing is you're going to see I'm logged in, I believe, under Allegheny College of Maryland. There's nothing special about them except for the fact that they're at the top of the alphabet, and that's who I chose to use as my test account, and that's the only reason. Hopefully I remember my password. So here's the request for the one-time passcode. Just click the button. It's going to send an email to me. There's my email with my one-time passcode. And here we are. So the first thing we just went over was the users. So let's walk through the users. So under Profiles, Manage User Accounts. I click that. Here's a list of all the users that are assigned to Allegheny College of Maryland. I can edit a user. And I can say they're no longer doing wage files and click update. That's simple. I can add a user. So I'm going to use Karen Simpson. If anybody's familiar with her, she does all of our stuff with retirement coordinators. She's going to be happy to get emails from me today. Something's not right. Click next. Take me to this screen. So here I'm going to add in her information. And notice you got the red asterisks to tell you these are the ones that are mandatory. You can see her address already filled in. Is this contact going to be a user in the employer portal? So you can add contacts in here that aren't necessarily EP users. So what does that look like? We want actually contacts for your organizations. We want to know who your CEO is, who is your payroll, who is your CFO, things like that. That's really helpful to us. So we want to make sure that we get that information. All right. It's not the first thing you have to do, but over time we would like to get that. So let's say that she is going to be a contact user. I'm going to say she's in payroll, she does payments, and she does retirement coordinator. And I can click create. What will happen now is Karen's going to get an email to activate her account. Once she activates her, now it's on her to activate her account. She'll go and do that. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so you can add, you can delete, you can trash. It's very simple. The main point here is to make sure when you're adding users that you're adding the correct user roles to them. Let me just show you the help channel real quickly. We do have a user role description here. So this will tell you all the user roles and what the features are. This should also help you to determine what user roles they need to have, along with the PowerPoint slides that we have. All right, that's a good stopping point for any questions. So I think I did see one in the chat. So we have one about a satellite state agency. If your payroll is being submitted by the state, then you're not going to be going live at this point. We will get you in a future one. Stay online, you'll learn something, or you can drop. That's not a big deal. I think that was the one question we had coming in. Are there any other questions on the managed users that we've gone over? Okay. So next thing is how to update your profile. This is where you can edit. So this is you as your own personal user, when you log in, how you can keep your information, your title, your phone number, where you can change your password. That's where you will do that. This is, again, something very simple. Oh, did I just lose that? Hold on just a second. Sorry about that. I clicked the wrong button. All right, so under account and profile, here's all my information. I can click edit. I can edit any of these. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, you can also change your password. We're also giving you guidelines of password. This, again, this will actually take you back to NIST. It's a good article, so you know it's also worth your while, not just for our website, but also on how to make passwords if your organization hasn't done anything like that. So that's a good resource there. So again, pretty straightforward. I didn't save any of the information on that. So again, under account, profile. All right, we're going to talk about submitting member documents now. So this is a new feature for the employer portal. This is not available in Epdr. This is something we built new for the employer portal. This is a way for employers to send member documents to the state retirement agency electronically. This is the method we want you to use. All right. All member documents should be submitted through the employer portal. Why? This is the most secure method to send member documents. It's the most efficient way of sending member documents. Let me tell you why. Obviously, if you send it through mail, there's a delay. There's also an opportunity for it to get lost. Let's be honest, we've all experienced issues with the mail in the last year or so. It's not necessarily the best. So if we can get things electronically, I think that would be better. Why is it efficient? What happens when you upload a member document, it goes to a folder, and our office services team will take that from the folder and they will save it directly to that member's account. We have a software called Abby, which has character recognition. And if you notice that all of our forms now have a barcode, the Abby software can read the barcode and say, I know based off of this barcode that this is an application for membership, Form 1. I know based off of that to look on a very specific part of the form and pull the Social Security number. It does very well pulling numbers. Our accuracy rate with it is probably above 90%. And then it just goes through a review to say, okay, it's matching and picking up all those numbers correctly. So, and then what happens from there is it gets delivered electronically to our various departments based on the type of form that it is. So that's why it's very efficient, because as soon as you upload it, within about 24 hours, it will show up in that member's record and it will be delivered to the department it needs to be delivered to. This is much better, obviously, again, from regular mail. This is much better from email, because if you send it to email to a single person, maybe they're not in the office that particular day, maybe they're on vacation. If you send it to a team, great. What happens when you send it to a team? Everybody else thinks that somebody else is going to take care of it, and then it doesn't get done. If you send it to our main email address, it gets mixed in there along with the other 100 and 200 emails that we get a day. So it may take a little bit for that, for us to be able to pull it from there. So this is why we say this is the most secure and most efficient way to get that information to us. So administrators and retirement coordinators have the user roles to upload member documents to us.
Harris,
So
confirmation?
I'm sorry, is there a question?
Hi, Harris, do we get a confirmation on that?
I will show you two confirmations that you'll get. Okay, good question. Each document must contain the member's social security number. If it doesn't, we can't associate it to the account, obviously. Now we are asking you to kind of separate these in one of two ways. Each file should contain either all documents of the same form number or documents for only one member. So if you have a bunch of enrollment applications, you can send a Form 1, a Form 4, a proof of birth for one person, or you can separate them and say, here's all the Form 1s in one file, here's all the Form files in one file, etc. It's one of those two ways. So you can kind of see the examples. We said multiple Form 1s, or you can send a retirement packet for one person. We kind of need it this way so that when we go to save it to a member's account, we kind of have a break in a separation in how we're doing it. If we try to lump everything together, it becomes really difficult for our staff to get those sorted out and saved correctly. So this helps us breaking it down and helps us with some efficiency there. So each document cannot exceed 2 megabytes. I don't think that's going to be an issue unless it's a really large, like, disability file. You can upload up to 10 files per an upload. So if you have 10 retirement applications and you put them in separate files, you can upload those 10 at one time. And the following types: JPEG, PDF, TIFF, PNG, Word, those are the type of files that we can accept. Probably most of these are forms, so they're going to probably be saved as a PDF. Let me demo this, and then I'll show you the confirmations that you'll get. So under Documents, you have Member Document Upload. These instructions are everything that I just said to you. I may have copied and pasted it directly from here. So it just gives you those general instructions. Select files. I have some test files that I can upload here. So I'll just upload those. And it tells you what you're uploading. I'm going to recommend that you do put some type of Title I here of the documents that make sense to you, and I'll show you why. I'm going to submit. So the first thing is, here's a confirmation: upload successful. The second confirmation that you get is, if you look under documents, we have member document history. This is a history of what you have uploaded. So it's going to tell you this is what you uploaded. This isn't saying that it's been saved to the member account, but there's really no way for us to tie back this conglomerate of forms to here. We're separating individual accounts and then telling you what we've gotten. That's a little bit complicated, but we are at least giving you a history here that you've uploaded it. If you've uploaded it here, we have it. Okay, so that should be your indication. Somebody said they're not seeing the demo. I think everybody is seeing my screen. Okay. I see some nodding heads, so thank you for the validation on that. So I think I answered your question on the confirmation receipt documents. So that is member document upload. Any other questions on member document upload?
Harris.
Yes.
Are all forms that the state retirement agency able to be uploaded, such as transfer forms or all types of forms there?
Yes, any form that is a member form can be uploaded through the member document upload.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Hi, Mr. Harris. I'm trying to get clarification on uploading the forms and making sure the Social Security number. So when we upload the Form 1, the beneficiary, and the driver's license, do you have to put Social Security number on each one of those forms? Or can we just do one Social Security number and then just upload any document that's associated with that Social Security number?
You should have a Social Security number on all forms that are going to be like a separate form. So what does that mean? A Form 1 obviously has Social Security number on it. The proof of birth should have a Social Security number on it. If it's something that's like a multi-page, you don't have to have it on each page. So if you're sending us, maybe something for disability would be a good example. Here's the information requested on sick leave. Here's their performance evaluations. I think we ask for performance evaluations sometimes. If it's 5 pages, the first page can have that Social Security number. The other 5 don't have to have it because that's one document. So each document should have a Social Security number on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure, like your proof of birth is either a birth certificate or driver's license. It doesn't have a social.
When you make a photocopy of it, just write the Social Security number on that photocopy.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. Because otherwise it's going to get lost. It's not going to get imaged correctly. Okay. All right. So let's move to employer documents. So employer documents are documents that are uploaded by our staff. These are going to be things like maybe some agreements that we have when you came into the system. These could be compliance reports, anything that we want to save to an employer's record or employer's file that we think is significant. We can do that, and then you'll have access to it as well. Most of you are not going to have a lot of employer documents out there at right now. It's something we just rolled out with this portal. So, it's last couple of months. So we don't have a lot of documents out there right now. But over time, these things will get added. So what does that look like? View employer documents under documents. And it's just a list of what those documents are. Okay, this is just a test document that I can show you. See, EDS test document. That's all that it is. I think over time it will become more something that we use. So we'll see how that evolves. Secure message. So with the new site, we have a secure message set up. I think it's a preferred method of communication with us. There's some advantages to, again, doing a secure message. One advantage is we can route it to different parts of the agency based on the topic that you put. Sometimes, again, if you send it to a single person, they may be out. If you send it to a team, everybody thinks somebody else is going to do it, and it may not get answered. So secure message, make sure that it does get answered because we can track it. If it goes into a secure message, it goes into a system in which everybody at the agency can see that there's a secure message, so that we don't have to resave an email, etc. It kind of gives us a history of conversations that we're having. So it's a really good method to communicate. It's not a chat. So this is you send a single message, we send a reply back. But it's not an ongoing chat. It's not going to be a chain of emails. It's going to be a one-time back and forth message and reply. When you When you receive a reply, there will be a little notification bell that tells you that you have a new message. So at the very minimum, when you send a secure message, it takes about 15 minutes for us to be able to see it in our system. When we respond, it takes about another 15 minutes to respond. Just to give you an idea, it's not going to be you send it one time and we respond within the next minute. There is a syncing process that does take place there. To make sure you have your subject, your topic, your message. And again, these help us make sure we're routing it to the right places within the system. So you'll see secure messages on the home page. I can compose a message. So maybe this is about an enrollment issue. Whatever, I'm just making something up off the top of my head. I'll hit send. So it's about 2:11 right now. This will sync every 15 minutes. So in about 4 minutes, we would get that message. That doesn't mean we're going to respond at that point, but that's the process to get it. Then once you get the message, you'll see a little bell up here to see that response. All right. That is secure message. So help. I'm going to go over the help now before we get into payroll. So if anybody needed to take a break, we can do that. So we have several help videos out here. We created these videos. They're, I think, all about 5 minutes long. I'm not going to recommend that you go out and view those today or Monday because you're probably going to get tired of listening to me today. And I was the one that created those videos. So if you don't want to hear my voice right away again, take a little break, but they are available for you. I think you will find them useful and helpful. So they would be a good source of information if you're not sure how to do something right away. Watch the videos first before giving us a call. I think they'll help you. We also have a quick guide on how to log in and activate members. So that may help you if you're in the admin role. You may want to be able to give that to somebody that you're going to add as a user role. Certainly the user descriptions, that's going to be helpful to make sure you're adding people in the right user roles. And then we have added this browser guide. So this is a list of supported and non-supported browsers. Some people ask, what's the best browser to use? Chrome and Edge are the two best. The other ones, Internet Explorer is kind of falling by the wayside. There's not a lot of active business users using these, so Chrome and Edge is what we're going to recommend to you. So we have a question. So secure message is replacing email correspondence. Will we receive notification email? Will we receive notification in email, or do we have to log in the portal every day? Thank you. All right. We're not taking away your ability to send emails. We just think that secure message offers some pros that email doesn't. Certainly, emails also has its pros to it. So it is the preferred method, but I also understand there's reasons why you may want to use email. Right now, we're not sending an email notification when the secure message has been sent to you, but that is something that we do plan on adding in the future. So yeah, right now you log in each day to see it, but we do plan on adding the feature of sending an email notification once a secure message has been sent. So good question, appreciate that. So that is secure message. So that is part one. I'm going to tell you, we're not going to go till 4 o'clock. I think we'll be done in about 2 hours today. So that is the good news. Are there any other questions up to this point before we take a little break here?
Just one more question about the secure message. Do you have, is the agency ever going to initiate a secure message to the coordinators?
We have the capability of doing that. We haven't really used that yet, but we do have the capability of doing that. And I think if we started using that more, we would probably notify everybody that that's something to look out for. And most likely we would probably do that along with rolling out a new feature to notify you by email.
All right, thank you so much.
Yep. Any other questions? All right, let's take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 2:25. And the second part of this is going to be for uploading payroll and paying invoices. So if you're going to be involved in that, please stay on. If you're not, you can feel free to drop off. But if you want to stay and see those, absolutely more than welcome. More people to train, I think the better. All right, thank you. We'll see you everybody at 2:25.
I just texted you. Where are you at? Because I was like, where the heck is she? I'm on a call. Okay. You have any lunch left?
All right. Welcome back, everyone. We'll get started on part 2. This is submitting payroll. So this is a little workflow of the payroll process. So these are called swim lanes. So this tells us who's doing what. So the first one is the employer portal payroll role. We then have the employer portal /SRA, and then we have the employer portal payment role. So again, remember, we have different roles. You need to be in those roles in order to do those functions. So let's focus in on our red box here. So the employer uploads a payroll file or clones a previous report. Once you do that, the system will run its validations. You'll review and fix all errors, review your warnings. So an error is a hard stop, a warning, you can still submit it, and then you'll submit the payroll. So let's look at a couple other things here. So how to submit payroll. It's very similar to the current Epdr process. The file format has not changed. We have not made a lot of functionality change here that will be coming in a future version. For right now, the way that you're currently doing it gets carried over. So the file format has not changed. You can still either import or clone a file. You must fix all the errors before the file can be submitted. The submit button will not be enabled until all errors are fixed. Warnings should be reviewed prior to submitting. Okay, if we're throwing a warning out there, there's a reason why, so we want you to take a look at those. Now, there are some important changes to this. Your payroll report can only contain one combination of a pay period ending date and pay date. So this helps us track whether your data and the payments are on time. Your payroll report cannot contain prior payroll periods or excess contributions. So any prior payroll periods and excess contributions must be reported in an adjustment report. And then we also have some new validation rules to go along with this. All right, so the key points here: one pay period ending date for one pay date, and then also not giving us any excess contributions in your payroll. There should be adjustments. So your payroll validations, when you upload the file, we're going to validate if it's in the correct format. If it's not in that fixed 250 character format, it's going to fail. We're going to look for things like, are there alpha characters in a numeric field? For the field of the Social Security number, it has to be all numeric. If there's an alpha character in there, it's going to fail. Only one pay period ending date per file. Okay, I've seen in past where some employers will also submit a prior pay period ending date for somebody they missed. That should not be on the regular payroll file. That should be an adjustment. And then the file should be in order of their pay schedule. What we really mean by this is they should be submitted in the order of your pay date. So the pay date is actually the due date. And we would expect things to be submitted in the order of your pay date. So if you have a pay period ending date and a pay date of 2/15/2022, don't send us, I'm sorry, 3/15/2022. I thought we were still in February. Don't give us your April payroll yet. Right? Makes sense. We should have things being sent in order. And then we kind of broken these down to categories. So we have employer details. So we're going to verify that the location code is associated to the organization. So if you give us a location code that is not assigned to your organization, that's going to fail. Is it a valid system? So we have our system codes. If you give us a system code that we don't recognize, that will fail. And then under the personal details, we're going to verify that the Social Security number is a valid Social Security number. That does not mean that we're going to validate that that social security number belongs to that member. We're going to validate that it is a number that is within a sequence that the Social Security Administration assigns. So if you give us all zeros and all nines, that's going to fail. We're going to verify that there's only one record for each member per location. Okay, that's also to say that we're not expecting a whole bunch of things for one person. We're expecting one record. A valid zip code, again, there's 5 numeric characters. No special characters in either the city, state, first name, last name, or middle initial. Verify that there is an address, that it's not empty. We're going to validate the salary and contributions. The actual annual compensation cannot be less than 0. The actual earnable compensation cannot be less than 0. The base pay can't be less than 0. If they're less than 0, they didn't work that time. That's an adjustment. In some period, there are also validations that if you're in the teacher system, the summer months, we kind of have a little bit of leeway there, but in the month of March, everybody should have a salary greater than 0. It's going to validate that everybody's salary is greater than 0, things like that. The actual annual compensation can't be greater than the actual earnable compensation. Contribution cannot be negative. Okay? These are kind of some basic validations. The better the payroll comes in, the better the account's going to be in the back end. That's not going to have to cause us audits. That's going to give the member more accurate information. So the more accurate we get from employers through payroll, the more accurate things will be on our end. That's the ultimate goal. Again, more validations, hours work must be greater than 0, less than 289. That's kind of just a number based off of what we've seen. We shouldn't expect craziness there. There is an exception if the member's a 10-month employee. The month is June, July, or August. The hours work can be reported as 0. We know that some employers will report salaries for those months, but no hours worked. Other than that, we're expecting to get hours work. We're expecting to get contributions. We are expecting to get salary information. And it's the same thing with the standard hours. It's the same rule. So before I go into any more, let's stop for some questions. I think there were a couple. Will, you want to go with the questions that we got from
Yep.
the chat?
Yep. So Elaine asked, where do we get the file format to import? We've always had to manually input all employee info for each contribution.
So we can send you out the file format if you want to use the file format. You're probably cloning right now. You can still clone. That's up to you. If you want to switch to a file format, we can send that out to you.
So we'll send out the reporting manual that includes the file format with the meeting slides after the meeting. But yeah, if you're cloning now, you can continue to do that. The next question is, does the adjustment form replace the 714 form?
So the adjustment, the process is a little bit different because it's going to be submitted through the employer portal. It does not replace the 714. It's a 714 Excel file. We are working on our version 2, which is going to replace that with an adjustment report. So we're working on that, and we'll be sending out information within the next couple of months on where we stand with the version 2 of adjustments.
Next is the upload format currently changing to the new upload format, or is it the same format for payroll reporting?
Yeah, the file format for payroll is not changing right now. Okay, you will have a same file format that you're using for Epdr, you'll be using for the employer portal. That has not changed.
Lorna asks, my organization has a biweekly payroll and a once a month payroll. Are there any changes that address this case?
Okay. What we have done so far is we've gone through each employer to identify situations in which You have, let's say, the same pay period ending date and pay date, but you're submitting 2 files to us. Or maybe you're submitting 1 file and it should be 2 files. Different combinations, I think, that kind of fall out of this 1 pay period ending date, 1 pay date combination. We have identified those employers. I don't think there's anybody in this wave that's going to be an issue. So, Lorna, I don't believe that's going to be an issue for you. If you send us your organization details, we can take a further look and just verify that. But I don't believe there's anybody in this particular wave that's going to need any special attention.
All right, that's it for the questions in the chat.
Okay. Did anybody else have any questions that they wanted to ask? All right. So the next part of this, you submit the payroll, and an invoice is created. So this is a little bit different than the current EPDR process where you were filling out the remittance and revenue control. We don't have that part of it anymore. So you submit your payroll, an invoice is created, and when that invoice is created, it will send an email out to anyone that has the user role of payment. That's to alert them that there is a new invoice for you to go and pay. So we've eliminated the transmittal revenue control steps from EPDR. Instead, again, when you submit your payroll, an invoice will automatically be created for all member contributions due. So what does that mean? That means that the system is doing that calculation. So the money is always going to match the data. I mean, that's a significant improvement for us. That allows us to do a lot more straight through processing. We create 1 invoice for each payroll report. We create 1 line item in each invoice for each system. The due date of that invoice is going to equal the pay date. And then again, we send an email notification to all payment users that an invoice is ready for payment. So let's start that demo. I have to sign back in. Hold on 1 sec. All right, so I'm going to go to payroll reports. So you have the clone feature. So if you're currently cloning, you can continue to use the clone feature. Or I can import a file. So it's going to do the validations. I have 2 records that error. Okay, there's no hours worked here. There's no salary here. I can either fix those. Or I can say, oops, you know what? I incorrectly reported this person. I'm just going to delete them. I have my data summary over here, my total records. Once that's done, again, this is just like what you're currently doing. Click submit. This replaces your remittance and revenue control. I'm going to submit that. It's been successfully submitted. Successfully submitted. So what happens here, the next step is an invoice is created. So if I go to my invoice tab, Now, I want to point out that I am listed as both a payroll user and a payment user. So it's giving me the ability to do all of that. This is the invoice that we just created. So I can click here. This gives me all my contributions, my total. This is what I'm going to pay. Also, what happens is an email is sent. You have a new invoice. You can click here to log in. So this alerts the payment users, hey, you have a new invoice. So I'm not going to pay this just yet. I'll come back and do that part of it. We'll do adjustments first, and then we'll come back and we'll pay the invoices. So any questions on that so far?
I've got some questions. Lorna has a follow-up to, they're the ones with the 2 different pay schedules. She's with the city of New Carrollton, so I think they're on your list for something, right?
Yeah, so Lorna, I'll reach out to you and we'll schedule some time to go over. I think you guys will have one little change, but I'll reach out to you and we'll discuss that together. So I kind of figured that was the one.
Okay. Robin asks, are we required to report 10-month employees with 0 hours during summer months?
So for that question, I'm going to actually take that one offline and somebody from our payroll team can reach out to you. Those are more business rules that I don't want to necessarily get into here. So we can certainly have somebody reach out and discuss that with you. So we'll just capture, just let us know the employer and make sure we reach out.
All right. Maria asks, just to confirm, we could either click on the invoice tab or wait for an email.
Correct. If you're in that user role that you're going to do both, just go to the invoice tab. You don't have to wait for the email, but the email is going to be sent automatic. It's going to be sent within a second. So they're going to happen simultaneously almost.
All right. Jay asks, if an invoice is authorized for payment on our pay date, will the funds be considered paid timely, even though they will clear the bank 2 business days later?
That's an excellent question, Jay. I will cover all of that in just a minute. Let me go through the submit adjustments, and then when we get to paying the invoices, I promise I'll get that question answered.
All right, that's it for the chat.
Okay. So let's talk about adjustments first. So how to submit adjustments. So the first thing is, do not report adjustments in your payroll. All right, we want to make sure that your payroll, that the cash that you're sending us equals to that particular salary, and it's not going to have anything extra in it. So don't report extra cash for a member. Do not short the cash for a member. Report all those changes in the adjustment report. By separating the payroll and adjustments, that means that you can submit adjustments at any time. That's one of the reasons we did it. It gives the flexibility that you can do these adjustment reports anytime. You can pay them in any time. They don't have to be coupled with the payroll. There are 2 pieces to the payroll. You upload the 714 file. It must be an Excel file. We prefer that you use our template that's available in the employer portal. That is more helpful to us. And then also a summary of any contributions by the system. System. So go ahead, Will.
There's probably one bullet missing off of here is do not report payroll from a prior pay period. Only the current pay period.
Yeah, I think we covered that in the payroll though, right? Because you only have 1 pay period ending date.
Yep.
So, yep, but good point. Now, we're also going to ask you to break these adjustments down a little bit by not mixing positive and negative adjustments in the same file. The way that we have to handle it is a little bit different depending on if it's a positive or negative. So please don't mix those. Do not mix positive adjustments where some contributions were withheld and some were not withheld. If you withheld contributions, then we can deal with that in the person's account. If you did not withhold contributions, then we need to bill the member. So we want to keep those separate. And do not mix negative adjustments from different tax years. So if it's a negative adjustment where a refund is due, if it's in the current tax year, then the employer can issue the money back to the member. If it's in the prior tax year, then the state retirement agency issues it back as a error refund. And it all has to do with the taxes, so we don't want those to be mixed. A positive adjustment, so contributions withheld, an invoice will be created. And an invoice must be paid on or before your next payroll report invoice. So we don't want adjustments staying out there forever and ever. We want those to be paid with the next invoice. If contributions were not withheld, but we need contributions. So if somebody got a salary adjustment and contributions were not withheld to make up the difference of that new salary, then we would have to bill the member. And that's why we're asking for these things to be separated so that we can better handle how these things need to, whether we're billing you, whether we're billing the member, etc. And then for the negative adjustments in the current tax year, calendar year, a credit ACH payment will be made from MSRA to the employer. So if there's a negative 714 adjustment, you reported payroll for somebody, but they didn't actually work, and we're going to refund that money back, we will send it via ACH. And then you would then issue a refund back to the member. If the adjustment's in a prior tax year, then we will issue a refund back to the member and a 1099-R showing them the payment was received in error. So that's how we have to separate those because of the taxes. Let me demo this. So if I go to payroll adjustment reports, again, you have the download adjustment template. So this is the 714. Here's the template. So you can use that, please. And then it's asking me questions. Is this a positive or zero contribution? Is this a negative? If it's a positive, were contributions withheld or not withheld? If they were withheld, it's going to ask you to fill in some additional detail. So I can select a file. 714. Let's say that this was an additional $1,000 for the employee's pension system, and click submit. So this will go into SRA, and it will be in pending status. The next thing that will happen is a staff member from State Retirement Agency will review it. They'll either reject it or they'll approve it. So let me just see. Hey, Ed, can you go into test admin and just approve ID 762 for me, please?
Sure.
Thank you. So we'll show you what that looks like once it gets approved. I'll do a negative. Say it's in the current tax year.
That was 762, Harris?
Yes. Now here, it's only going to let me enter in negative values.
Okay, it's approved.
Okay, so you can see he just approved that one. It now goes into approved. All right, and what that means is that I will now have another invoice. This is the one that we just uploaded. All right, thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
So that is adjustments and getting adjustments submitted to us. Again, this is the current version. We will be sending information out in a couple months about a version 2 that's going to re-engineer this process, but this is the process for now. So do we have some questions on that before we go to pay an invoice there, Will?
Yes. Tammy asked, so if you have an adjustment for previous pay, how do you do that?
So if you have adjustment for previous pay, it's going to be just like this. Let's say you didn't take out the contributions, you would do a positive adjustment. You would put send us say the contributions were not withheld, and then we would bill the member. If you did withhold the contributions already, again, you would just tell us that you withheld the contributions, and then we would have an invoice sent out to you. You would pay it that way. So, think I've covered how to do that. If not, put in the chat and we'll cover it additionally.
That's it in the chat.
Okay. So now we're at the part where we have invoices, so we can review and pay those invoices. So you'll review and pay the invoice. We'll then take that and we'll process it. And then after 3 days, we'll post the data to the member's record. So let's go into the app again. We'll look at the invoices. So I have these 3 invoices that I can check all 3 of them to pay all 3 of them together. What this will look like on your end is actually 3 separate transactions. So we're not going to make you click each button and pay and then click and pay and click and pay. We'll take all 3 of these. There'll be 3 separate banking transactions that you'll see coming out of your bank. And then this was a question. So all payments initiated on a non-business day or after 3 p.m. on a business day will be processed the following business day. So right now it's 2:53. If I submit these to right now, we would take that money this evening. If I did it after 3 p.m., we would be taking it tomorrow. Now, the requirement is that you initiate a payment by the due date. So even though we have an internal cutoff at 3 p.m., if my due date on this invoice is on 3/7, then I have up until 11:59 p.m. tonight to initiate that payment. If I've initiated that payment by 11:59 tonight, even though I won't be taking that money tonight, I'll be taking the following night, you have initiated the payment and met that requirement. That means that you will not be assessed any more penalties and interest beyond that date. So as long as you initiate the payment by the invoice date, or I'm sorry, by the due date, which will be 11:59 that night, then you don't have penalties and interest. So I hope that I've clarified that for you, Jay. If not, or Will, if you want to add anything.
I just want to, the only thing I want to add is your due date is your pay date. All right, those 2 things are the same.
Correct. All right, so I've checked all of these. I'm going to click pay. Now, again, I want to reiterate that only the payment role has access to initiate these payments. So if you go out there and you're looking at this and this pay button is not enabled after you don't have any way of enabling it because these check marks aren't here, that means you don't have the user role of payment. You need to have the user role of payment. I click pay. I'll confirm. Moves into initiated payments. And then after 3 days, it will move to paid payments. Now, these are all tests, so obviously they're not going to move to pay because they're not real payments. It's not real bank account information. And I also need to show you the bank accounts. Let me show you the banking info. So if I click banking info, click edit, you're just entering the routing number and account number twice. It's that easy. Okay. So make sure that admin, you set up the banking information, and we'll touch on that in just a minute on some additional things, but that's how to pay the invoices. So let's go through a couple of things on the slides. So to manage the banking info, again, the employer portal administrator is the only user role that can add and edit the banking info. We use this banking info to create ACH debit transactions when you pay the invoices. We also use the banking info to issue ACH credit transactions when we need to issue credit back to an employer. Now, in some cases, you will need our banking information. This is going to be a company ID, and your banks will, most of them will want to confirm this information. So your bank should have confirm that they're ready to process their debit transactions. If you need help with this, contact us. But you want to make sure that your bank is ready by Monday to do these debits. I also want to touch on the ACH debit waiver process. So we covered this at our kickoff. We're going to cover it again now. So there is a new regulation that requires member contributions to be paid electronically. And this went into effect September 10th, 2021. And it does allow for a waiver. So it basically says that you have to do an ACH debit, but you can request a waiver. So you must request that in writing to the executive director. That is Martin Novin. So you can email him. You need to detail your reasons of why you're unable to comply with the ACH debit. So you should read the requirements and make sure that your waiver request is going to be granted. You can't say because we don't want to. That's not going to meet that regulation. And then if granted, you're going to must pay by ACH credit. So we're no longer going to accept checks or wire. It's either ACH debit, which is the preferred. That's also the easiest. However, if you want to request a waiver, you can, and that would be an ACH credit. And again, without a waiver, you must do it by debit. So if you need a waiver, get that request in ASAP. Hopefully anybody who needed it already did that and has already gotten that to us. We did the demo here, so let's just cover these things a couple more, reiterate these points. So unpaid payments, you have past due invoices. They will accrue penalties and daily interest. So get those in. Payments initiated prior to 3 p.m. will be withdrawn that evening. If it's initiated after 3 p.m., it will be the following evening, or if it's on the weekend, it'll be the following business day. When you pay an invoice, they will be moved to the initiated payments. And then after 3 days, once we know that it's successful, we'll move it to the paid tab. And then we actually post that payroll to the member's record. Right now through Epdr, you send that payroll to us, we get the payment. It's probably about 3 weeks minimum before we post those records to a member's account. So we've gone from 3 weeks to 3 days. That's a significant improvement. If by some reason the payment is returned, you will get an email to say it's been returned. It will be moved back into the unpaid tab. And if it's after the due date, penalties and interest will have automatically accrued on that. We went through how to pay the invoices. So, Will, let's go through questions now.
All right, so Chuck asks, he says, Will, I thought it was stated in one of our earlier meetings that the supported files for upload was going to be updated to accept Excel files or CSV. However, it sounds like the text files are still being used. Did the scope of work change, or did I misunderstand? So Chuck, let me just kind of recap. It probably depends on whether we're talking about a payroll file or an adjustment file and what version of the employer portal that we're talking about. So I just put a summary in the chat, and let me just recap it for you. So for version 1, which is what we're doing the training for today, and that's going to be launched next week, the payroll file will still be in the current text file format. So that doesn't change at all. The adjustment file format also does not change. We do need it to be in an Excel format. You can use the old formats. You can use the new template, which is what we prefer. But bottom line, version 1, we're not changing the file formats. We are working on a version 2. We're going to publish a manual at the end of May. The target launch for that is December 1st. In that version, the payroll file still will not change. It will continue to be the text file format. The adjustment file format is going to change. It's going to be a CSV file format, and it will, the format itself will change. All right, and you'll see those details at the end of May. We are also planning for a version 3. That's when the payroll file will change. It will follow basically the same format as the adjustment file in version 2. And the version 3 adjustment file will not change. All right, so by the time we get to the end of version 3, the file formats will basically be the same. You'll also in version 3 have the ability to mix payroll records and adjustment records within the same file. All right. Version 3 is sometime next calendar year. All right. We probably won't start working on version 3 until the end of this calendar year. So I hope that clears that up for you, Chuck. We've got another question from that says, if a member has not selected their pension fund when they start employment, we usually double their contribution with the next payroll and upload the contribution with the regular payroll file and pay the contributions to MSRA. Do we still have to submit an adjustment form?
So in that case, you should submit to us when you submit the second payroll. The contributions that you're submitting there should equal to 1 payroll, and then the excess contributions should be reported in the adjustment file and paid through that invoice process. So you should not be submitting to us 2 contributions in 1 payroll. That would fail a validation there.
All right, next question. If we have a check date this week, we would still pay the same way as in the past, correct?
That is correct. So we'll get into what to expect and what to do this week and next week here in just a minute. All
right. Elizabeth asks, how will you share the company ID for employers to set up ACH? She says positive pay. I think she means debit.
Yeah.
I can, let's see. We sent that out to the employer portal administrators. Elizabeth, I'll double check and make sure that we have done that for your organization. And assuming I have your email, I will copy that to you as well.
Okay. One other point I want to add, which is, even if you have an ACH, even if you request a waiver and you're granted a waiver, we would still need your banking info because that's the only way that we can issue a credit back. So you still need to provide the banking info so that we can do the credit if you have an ACH waiver. All right, so what to expect now when we move you to the employer portal. So your launch date is a week from today, March 14th. You cannot start a payroll report in Epdr and finish it in the employer portal. So if you have to submit any payroll that's due by March 11th, which is Friday, you should do that through EPDR. And we're asking you to do that by noon on Friday. So continue to use EPDR for the remainder of this week. And then noon on Friday is when you should stop using it. And then on the afternoon of Friday, we will migrate all of your data from EPDR to the employer portal. And we will be taking care of doing that on Friday. So that's why we have a cutoff time so that we know it's noon. We should have gotten everything. We're going to now do the data migration. We will send instructions to access the employer portal in an email on the morning of Monday, March 14th. So then on the launch date, the administrators, you'll review all your users and set up their user roles and set up the banking information. And then you'll start using the employer portal to report all your payroll, adjustment reports, paying invoices, member documents, sending uploads. We'll monitor your last payroll report in EPDR and your first payroll report and payment on EP to make sure everything's working smoothly. Also on Friday or Monday, we will be taking the access of EPDR away so that you're not in both, because that could cause us some issues. So we'll be cutting access to EPDR also probably Friday afternoon. We'll send a copy of these slides later today. We're recording it. We'll send it when the link is available. It'll take probably a couple days for us to do that. We'll send you a launch email on the 14th. Contact us if you have any questions or concerns. There's our phone number. You can also email myself and Will if you have any questions. You'll be getting emails from us next week. That is the next step. So what other remaining questions do we have? That concludes our training for today. I think we've gone over everything that you need.
I don't have anything else in the chat, Harris.
All right, we'll give everybody a minute or two if they have anything. All right, if no more questions, I thank everybody for participating and coming today. We finished earlier than what we had anticipated. So we appreciate that. Again, if you have any questions, concerns, just reach out to us. All right, thank you, everyone.